herself as a music icon. Her award-winning hits have set the standard that few can rival. Dionne Warwick, up next on BET Tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ed Gordon. Don't Make Me Over, Do You Know the Way to San Jose, and Walk On By, trademark classic songs made famous by a woman who was the first black female performer to appear before the Queen of England at a Royal Command performance in 1968. In the late 70s, she hosted the popular and groundbreaking television show Solid Gold. With over 50 hit singles, 5 Grammys, and a number of gold and platinum albums, she still found the time to give tirelessly to many benefits and charities. Her ability to consistently record hits and make a difference in people's lives has also earned her a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, and we're very pleased to greet the legendary Dionne Warwick tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. We were talking before the show got started. We've been very lucky over the course of the last couple of months since we've been up to have not only true legends, but some of your good friends. Isaac Hayes was here, and Gladys Knight and Ray Charles and the like. Let me ask you, you come from a musical family, a musical background. Were you the best singer in the house?
No way. I wish I could say yes, but no. My mom is an incredible singer. My sister, Dee Dee, blows me away. She just... Who
had a career for young people who don't know, who recorded for years.
Exactly, and had a couple of wonderful hit records and was nominated for a few Grammys, so... no, by and large, I'm a combination of all of my family of singers. My aunts and uncles, my mom, my dad sang too. So we all sang good.
When you were making your hits in the 60s, did you have an idea, not only that they would be hits at that time, but I suspect you couldn't have known how classic they would be and be able to stand the test of time?
No way. Not only I, but I'm certain that Backrack and David never dreamed of this kind of success with the songs that they were writing. We were so different from anything that was going on at that time, recording-wise. I mean, it was the era of the groups, the boy groups and the female groups. Very few female singers. The ones that I do remember that were in line with where I was, it was Mary Wells, and Aretha Franklin was just coming into the scene. The others were, people like Doris Day and Dinah Shore and those kinds of folks, but not in our genre of music. So, and being as different as I was, it was like trying to crack that mold that everybody had tried to put us all in. It wasn't an easy task, but as they say, great stuff prevails.
When you heard your first hit, Don't Make Me Over, on the radio,
oh my goodness,
what was it like for you?
I pulled up. I was driving back from the airport. I just dropped some friends of mine off at the airport, and I was on my way home, and my record came on. I had to pull over. I wanted to hear myself on my radio. It was amazing. It really was.
What about the collaboration with Burt Bacharach and Hal David? Often you will see lyricists and composers maybe have great songs and a run of great, but unless, like Lennon and McCartney, they did it on themselves, or even some folks we had here, contemporaries like Jam and Lewis, who do a number of artists, what was it about their team and you that made it so special?
Ooh, I wish I had a pat answer for that. They were writing...
and by now, I suspect you've been asked that a million times. You maybe should have one by now.
Right, I should, right. But every time it's asked, I have to really stop and think. We became friends, for one thing. I had a deep appreciation for Hal David's lyric. I mean, his lyrics are just... they stand up on their own without music. You can read his lyrics and still get the same emphasis of what he's trying to say. Bacharach's melodies were completely different than anything that anyone was singing or was listening to at the time. And I was the component part that they needed, to fuse those two elements together to get people like you to listen to it. And I guess that's really what it was really all about, making some great songs. I don't think we really went in to make hit records. It just happened.
And indeed, it happened many, many, many times. We're going to take a quick break here. We return. We're going to talk about Ms. Warwick's continuing career, and we'll also talk about why she's so philanthropic and giving of her time for people who don't have as much. We'll be back with Dionne Warwick in just a moment. Back with the legendary Dionne Warwick, and we just saw Going Out. That's what Friends Are For. I'm going to ask you about that project in just a moment, but let me take you back to the early days. Do you have a favorite song of Bacharach and David that you perform?
Oh, my. That's a difficult question to answer. I usually say all of them, and I say that purposely because each one of them happened at a certain time in my life when certain things were going on. And I look at my music and my songs as my children. Yeah. And you can't.
But as I argue with some parents, even though, you know, you don't want to admit, there usually is a favorite child.
Not favorite. One that they...
Gives you less trouble, gets along with a little better. So which song gives you less trouble and you get along with a little better, huh?
Well, actually, the one that I have an affinity for, it wasn't a hit, The Windows of the World. Very poignant song written during the period of time when there's a lot of turmoil going on, not only in this country but outside of the country, that included us. And these were words that Hal David wrote that kind of expressed for us what we really need to look at ourselves and take care of. I call it my soft protest song. Yeah,
it's funny. I've asked a lot of people. Often, recording artists, their favorite songs aren't necessarily the hits of their careers. Which of your songs that was the hit that you really felt like, why are we even recording this thing?
Do you know the way San Jose? Yes. I hated that song.
And to a great degree, that is your signature, the one that defines your career.
You know, do you know the way? It's like, I guess. Because Hal David had, he was stationed in San Jose during his tenure in the Navy. And he fell in love with that little city and wrote a wonderful song about it. I thought it was kind of silly. Whoa, 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 whoa. You know what I
remember Sinatra saying that he hated Strangers in the Night. Yeah. You know, hated it, and that became one of his biggest hits. Exactly, you know? Exactly. Let me ask you this. When we look at your philanthropic duties and the kinds of things that you've dealt with in life, you hopped on AIDS very early on.
I was the first one to do it.
I mean, what made you do these kinds of things?
With the AIDS issue, it was because I lost my ballet. The young man that was on the road with me for quite a long time. And we didn't quite know what it was. We thought it was cancer. We thought it was everything but until it finally got a name, because it didn't have a name at that time. And we found that it was also hitting in areas that were very, very dear to me. People that looked like me were the ones that were most at risk. And I felt that, well, you know, it's okay, I can do something. I can do whatever it is that I can possibly do. And if my talent was the wedge, then I would use it.
Yet you've always been brave enough, frankly, to blaze the trail, to go to issues that weren't necessarily popular. Now, everyone wears a red ribbon and can talk about AIDS, but in '85 and when you put that project out, it was very taboo to talk about.
Oh, yeah, it certainly was. And before that even, I was appointed the Ambassador of Health during the Reagan and the Bush administrations. And I took the appointment quite seriously. I think they thought I was going to just, you know, fly away, and they weren't going, but I was in their face. And I was in their face for many, many reasons, primarily health reasons, dealing with minorities. Not necessarily just African Americans, but all minorities that needed somebody with a voice to speak for them. And I got a big mouth, you know, I really do. And I'm not afraid to say what I feel is true and honest, and we'll get results. And that's what I did. I went to bat for everybody.
You know what I found so ironic about your career? You, very early on, were accepted by a broad white audience when many black singers were not. Yet, you have always been very, 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 what people like to coin, pro-black.
Oh, absolutely.
What was it about you, do you believe, in your voice, that allowed whites to embrace it commercially?
Well, I was known as the recording artist that bridged the gap. The appeal was a music that was danceable, but also listenable. And it was also, it was a music that not only my peers at that time and my age group who were buying records could listen to, but it was something that their parents didn't mind in bringing into their homes and that they latched onto as well. So, and that was both sides of the coin.
Were you ever concerned that you would lose a black base?
Never, no. Look at me. There's no way in the world.
But in the sense of them accepting, because blacks often, commercially, if they think you've attained a certain status, will sometimes label you as a sellout,
Yeah,
etc.
absolutely. You know, I was, in certain parts of my career, I was said to be too white for black radio, whatever that is. I was a pop singer as opposed to an R&B singer. I'm a singer of music, you know, and music as a very broad stroke. And I used every single bristle in that brush to paint that stroke. And 99% of the people got it. You know, that 1%, they got to deal with that.
What about today? The music industry. I told you we had your friend Gladys Knight on, and I asked Gladys about what she thought about, you know, today's music business, and she said, look, I understand the movement toward youth. It's a youth industry. It was when I came up. It is now. Yet, black radio, she said, has changed so much that there is so much great music out there that never gets played.
Absolutely.
Gladys just put out a great album. You're not going to hear it on the radio.
Right.
How frustrating is it for you to see where we are today?
It's very frustrating, based on the fact that we are, first of all, recording artists. We are the foundation of this. You know, a lot of these radio stations wouldn't be existing if they were not able to play recordings that we did. And for them to feel that they have the right to kind of toss us to the side is a very big mistake, because it's like a pendulum. It swings both ways, and before you know it, it has to come back to what we're about. You cannot do without music. You just cannot. I cannot even imagine a world without music. We would be basket cases.
Yet even without radio play, you continue, as many of the great artists that we've had of late, continue to sell out concert halls and the like. That must be gratifying for you.
It's very gratifying, based on the fact that it's something I feel I've earned. I've paid close attention to my craft. I work at it constantly. There's never a minute that I don't feel I can improve upon something. And, you know, you pay good money to sit in those seats.
Indeed,
you know what I mean? And I got to come out there and give you what you came to see.
And indeed, if you haven't seen her, you should. She does indeed do that. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this lady's thought of rap music. We'll tell you what she thinks in just a minute.
How many times can we say goodbye? And how many times can we see love die?
And how many times can we give it one more try before we really say
goodbye?
We're back with Dionne Warwick. When we went out, we saw you and Mr. Vandross with one of your many hits. How many times can you say goodbye? I wanted to talk to you about rap music. Your son is a producer, produced a part of the platinum LP of Bone Thugs and Harmony. So obviously there's a connection there with rap, but you have also been very vocal in what rap needs to do.
Well, I've been very vocal about what I am disturbed about with regards to rap music. Let's kind of define rap music. It's been existed for a zillion years.
Long before the hip-hop generation found it.
You got that right.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The foundation was laid many, many years ago. The music that I object to, in fact, I don't even call it music. Gangster rap, the terminology, first of all, is a turnoff. Most importantly about gangster rap was the instructions that were given, the graphic instructions, the connotation of how to do things that were just not what I want my grandchildren to look at, what I want my children to be a part of. And that is what I took issue with, 100%, and I still do take issue with. There are some rap artists who are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They're writing things that they're dealing with on a daily basis, and they're not necessarily using words that are derogative. They're using words that are informative. Mm-hmm. I applaud those children very, very loudly, and I think they know that now. I think they all know what I take issue with and why I am so strongly opposed to that. And I will continue to be opposed to that, because I just don't think it's fair to the youngsters that are listening to this. The responsibility has got to be laid upon those who are giving this rhetoric, and they've got to be made accountable. Mm-hmm.
Let me switch gears real quick, if I can, and ask you about the idea of you being a groundbreaker, not only musically, but you've done so many other things, you know, the design wear and company that you have, and also when you hosted Solid Gold. Mm-hmm. And people don't necessarily look back on it as being groundbreaking, but it really was. Yeah. Was that something that you made an effort to do in your career?
All. You know what, I'll tell you something. Bob Banner, who was the creator of the show, he called me, and I, along with 4 or 5 other people that he wanted to talk to about doing the show. And it came down to Glenn Campbell and I. We co-hosted the first show, the pilot show. After the show came on, and they got such wonderful reviews about it, they decided they wanted to go with one host, and that was me. We had such a great time. It gave me an opportunity to meet some incredible talents, introducing them to the world, and also it gave me a chance to say hello to some of my good old friends. Indeed. Too.
And it also, as our audio man reminded us, gave those of us in our adolescence at the time every week a chance to see those solid gold dancers.
Of course.
take a quick break here. When we return, we're going to talk about the pressures of this business. Final thoughts with Dionne Warwick in just a moment. Dionne Warwick, wanted to ask you about the pressures in this business. We have seen of late Mariah Carey have problems. We know of Whitney's problems that have been documented, some real, some not. Mm-hmm. When you look back at your career and when you talk to Whitney and others, what do you tell them?
Well, I came up during an era where I had mentors that I went to, and I listened to them. I called them my classes. I went to see Sammy Davis Jr. and Lena Horne and Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald and Frank Sinatra and Johnny Mathis and Diane Carroll. And these people were doing things that I wanted to do. And I also watched how they conducted their lives. And it became a part of what I do. These children have been put in positions, multimillionaires instantly, which gives them the they feel the right to be able to do whatever they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, and where they want to do it, without any reservations whatsoever. So they don't come to people like me to ask, when you were here, what did you do? Because I was never in that kind of a position, first of all, to sign a $100 million contract. I mean, what is that? I mean, it's ludicrous. Along with that should come instructions. It really should. And there is a lot of pressure put on these children to maintain the kind of hit records that they've had in the past. You can't chase a hit record. When you've had it, that's what it is. It's next. And that, unfortunately, is not the way record companies look at it. And it's not the way they present it to the artists themselves. So What do? Take a sabbatical. You know, walk away for a minute and exhale, to use a phrase. Okay? And then come on back fortified and ready to do battle again. Because, first of all, the talent is not going to leave these kids. That's going to always be there. And that's what they really have to depend upon. And use me. You know, call me up. If you don't have my number, I'll give it to you. It's a very simple thing.
And have they done that, some of them?
Some of them
I mean, clearly
have.
Whitney has, because you guys have had a relationship related in the life.
Absolutely, yes. And, you know, I would love to talk to Mariah. I would love to talk to Mary J. Blige. I would love to talk to any of these children who are at one point or another at a crossroads.
Yeah.
You know, I may have a word that might get them over that hump.
All right. Ladies, use the wisdom. Please call Ms. Warwick. Put you in contact if we need to. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. And thank you for joining us, as always, from New York City. I'm Ed Gordon. We'll see you. Good night.